Welcome to the ISBHF Masters World Championship podcast. I'm Daniel Wilson. I will be covering the whole tournament every single day through this week, all the way to the playoffs this weekend. We got a whole lot to go through, so let's go right into it. The men's division comes in with 10 teams, which will be split into two groups, and the women's division will have 3 teams. We'll go all into those in depth, but what you'll need to know is that all teams will play a round robin starting on Wednesday, ending on Friday, and then it leads into our tournament format, which starts on Saturday, which will go into an elimination format, single game elimination. And it will go into our finals on Sunday to determine who will be this year's Masters champion. Here to talk with me about the whole tournament this year is Chris Bokuniewicz, our commentator for this year. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, happy to be here with you, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And let's start off with that. We've had a change to this year's Masters tournament. Normally, the age was 40 plus. This year, it's been changed to 35 plus. So, what's with the change, and what kind of impact is that going to have on the teams this year?
Great question. So the change was decided in the 2022 ISBHF annual general managers meeting. So that's where basically all the leaders of the various countries get together. They sit in a conference room, talk about proposed rules changes and whatnot. And one of the things that has been discussed for, I'd say, probably the last, 4 to 6 tournaments was there's kind of call it a dead zone when it comes to age groups, specifically age 30 to 40. And that's because I think everybody will tell you, ball hockey is a young man's game, right? There's just a lot of running involved. And eventually father time catches up with us all. And so one of the things the ISBHF had talked about was that dead zone really is unfair to these players. It's not really any fault of their own. It's just a product of getting older, right? So with the Masters traditionally being aged 40, the discussion was, what about if we lower it to age 35? Because that will give a lot more players an opportunity to compete.
Yeah, this will open up some new players to the teams that have not been previously available, which they would have otherwise not been able to qualify for the tournament. But let's go over the tournament itself. There are 10 teams in the men's division. There's 3 in women's, which I will talk about with the one of the captains, the alternate captains of Team USA shortly. But let's go over the men's group for you. They're separated into 2 groups. In Group A, we got Great Britain, Portugal, we got Greece, Canada, and United States. Canada had been winning the gold for a good while, but now they have won a silver last year. They want to get it back from Slovakia. So, what do you see in Group A?
I would expect Slovakia to be the favorite, coming out of Group B. Obviously Italy is going to be a strong contender as well. They, were a bronze medalist in 2016. They actually knocked out the United States in 2016 in Banff, Canada, and that was the United States team that was, very top heavy in terms of talent. They had some historically great players, some United States Hall of Famers on that team. So Italy is always going to be in contention. And, I think for Canada, Saskatchewan, the way the Canadian Ball Hockey Association runs it, they have their main Canadian team, right, which is Team Canada. And then the team from the province that wins the Canadian National Masters gets to pick a team to represent that province. So in 2022, Canada Saskatchewan won the Canadian Masters. And so they're able to take a lot of other players that for whatever reason weren't selected for Team Canada. And it's never a question of being good enough or what, right? I mean, you've been ball hockey in a long time as I have. There's probably 100 guys that you could assemble on Team Canada. It really just depends on the coaching staff and the type of players that they want, right? Do they want speed? Do they want hockey IQ? Is it physicality? Is it familiarity? Do they want players from certain provinces that have played together? So I actually spoke with the Canadian Saskatchewan general manager, and they feel very good about their team. They've got a lot of speed on that team, and a lot of people that have a very high hockey IQ that have played in the last few Canadian Masters. So I would expect them to contend as well.
In Group B, we do have Slovakia. They'll have Haiti, Italy. You already mentioned Canada, Saskatchewan. and we'll also have Bermuda in Group B as well. Now, I look at Group A, and I see a rivalry brewing. Everyone is watching Team Canada, but if you've seen the opens from last year, there was a rivalry that was developing between the USA and Greece. So I'm curious to see if that rivalry is going to carry over into Masters.
I think it will. So the Greece general manager of the Hellenic Ball Hockey Association, John Konstidis, is a very hockey savvy guy. He knows his players very well. Certainly you'll hear the names Barbas mentioned. There's three Barbas brothers on this team. They've been perennial, all stars at various different provincial levels and whatnot. They all have world's levels experience. So I would expect Greece to come out strong. They're going to be a tough out. They really are. They have very solid goaltending. And I think Greece's greatest strength really is familiarity. A lot of these players play together on the same teams in their regional league. And then by the time they get to provincials, they're usually a threat because of that familiarity. So whoever's going up against Greece in their games, they're certainly going to have to make sure that they take it to Greece and not let Greece take it to them. Because one thing Greece is very good at with the familiarity is getting off to quick starts. And we saw that last year in 2022, right? They knocked off the four-time defending champion, Slovakia. Let's not understate that. That was a historic victory for that organization. And so they're going to have 4 or 5 players, potentially 6 from that team here competing in the Masters. They're just going to be a tough out for anybody.
We could definitely talk a lot more about that, but I think we'll let the play speak for itself as we have quite a week ahead of us. So, Chris, thanks for coming on to us, and we'll talk a little bit later about how things turn out. So, thanks for coming on.
Hey, no problem, Daniel. Happy to, talk hockey with you, and look forward to a great tournament next week.
With this interesting spin on the tournament, this is really going to really put some different things into perspective in the women's division. And here to talk with me about that is alternate captain from Team USA, Karen Levin. Welcome.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So this is your third Masters tournament, despite you being age 36. And that was because you told me before we came on there were some exceptions. So what can you tell me about playing at the Masters level?
Masters is really an exciting time. Everyone's 35 and over, and the vibe is just amazing for folks that have been in the game for a really long time and still competing at such a high level. It's a real treat to get this privilege to continue, playing hockey after 35 at the Masters level.
And Team USA won the gold the last time we had the tournament, which was 2018. We never had a 2020 tournament for obvious reasons, but you can bet Team Canada is one you're definitely keeping your eyes on. So what can you expect out of the Canadian team?
Yeah, we won in 2022, so it's been an interesting turnaround. It's just 1 year since that, and so we're expecting the Canadians to want their championship back, and so we're expecting them to come out like they do every time. They are extremely good at generating offense and extremely well disciplined and good with the ball. So we're expecting them to be coming out there hitting the rink as hard as they can and generating lots of opportunities that we'll hope to battle back and create our own.
And we have saw that it's only you, Canada, and Great Britain participating this year. So what's going on with all that?
Yeah, it was a really interesting turn of events. Last year in the Czech, we had 6 teams. And this year we found out there's 3 teams participating. So Canada, the US, and Great Britain, as you mentioned. And, it's quite disappointing news for all 3 countries. And what I think has been really exciting that's come out of this is that we've worked to turn a difficult situation into a positive. And so what we're going to do is hold a Global Women's Summit held by the United Women's Ball Hockey Foundation Tuesday before the tournament. We're inviting athletes, coaches, GMs, leadership, administrators from all the governing bodies to join us to talk about the future of the women's game. We know that the ultimate goal of the ISBHF is to become an Olympic sport, and there's no sport the Olympics will entertain that doesn't have equal men's and women's. And so with that, we're super excited to come together as these three teams and just the women's community overall, and just talk about, what can we do to move the sport forward. We brought in some experts in diversity, equity, and inclusion to lead that conversation about growth of the women's game, why women in sport are good for business, women in leadership positions, and the help that they can have. And I'm just really excited to connect with all the folks who are interested in moving that forward.
Now, with Team USA itself, I look down the roster and I see a few familiar faces like Cherry Stewart, I believe Ann Gertz was one, but I also have my eyes on one goaltender, Liz Connor, who was an NBHL champion in the women's tier last year. So what is it about this team? Who should I be watching for this year for Team USA?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a good question. And honestly, when I think about that question, I think that everyone on that roster is dangerous. All of our goaltenders, all of our players are, they can score that goal. They can break up that back check. They can make that save. And so the entire roster, honestly, there's a lot of depth in that group. And I know that each one will contribute in their own way. So, watch out for everyone. Is the big message, and we're just excited to go out there and perform together as a team.
And we definitely looking forward to that. Thank you for coming on, and good luck to you out there.
Thanks a lot, Daniel. Appreciate it.
That is it for me this week. Be sure to check us out every single day this week for updates on this year's ISBHF Masters Ball Hockey Tournament. Till then, this is Daniel Wilson. We'll see you next time.